On Tuesday night, Deshaun Watson posted a cryptic tweet on his account, "Some things never change." That was the same night that word emerged that the Texans would be hiring former Patriots Director of Player Personnel Nick Caserio to be the new general manager. The tweet lingered for a while. It was deleted the next day. There was some speculation that Watson was actually talking about the decision from earlier in the day on Tuesday by authorities in Wisconsin to not charge the police officers who shot Jacob Blake back in August. Adam Schefter reported last night that Deshaun Watson was indeed referring to the Nick Caserio hire, and that was one of the final nails in a development that really began yesterday morning, Peter, between our show and the taping of our Picks podcast. I had posted something that I had been hearing, and once I start hearing things from different people that I know who are in different areas of the broader NFL universe, I start to take it very seriously. And the chatter was out there that Deshaun Watson's been telling his teammates that he wants out of Houston. And once we put that out there, and we couched it accurately and appropriately based upon what we knew, the avalanche began. Ian Rappaport tweeted that Deshaun Watson is extremely unhappy with the team. He didn't tweet it. He has an article, I think, about it. Extremely unhappy with the team and wasn't consulted in the hiring of Nick Caserio. They can't get him on the phone. Albert Breer of SI.com reported that Deshaun Watson advocated for the hiring of Eric Bieniemy, the Chiefs offensive coordinator, and they've told Deshaun Watson he's going to have a voice in this process, and they didn't even interview Eric Bieniemy. This thing is falling apart quickly for the Houston Texans. And look, they leaked yesterday to John McClain of the Houston Chronicle, under no circumstances will they trade Deshaun Watson. Well, you better fix the relationship then. If you're not going to trade the guy, you'd better figure out how to make him happy. And job number one in that regard is get him to answer the phone. That's how bad it's gotten. And if they don't repair that relationship, I think worse than trading him is having a guy at the most important position on the roster that doesn't want to be there.
Mike, about a week or so ago, someone who is in the job searching vein on the part of a team with openings, said to me, this is like the best year to go look for coaches, and it's the worst year because you can't interview them in person. But he said the benefit of not interviewing them in person is that it's so much easier and less labor intensive to interview somebody on Zoom, on a video conference, and then to sort of pair the field and then understand that, okay, this is the person we need to investigate more, or this is the person, we're not really that interested. And so, and all these teams, look, Arthur Smith is supposed to be interviewed by all 6 teams, the Tennessee offensive coordinator, all 6 available franchises with a coaching opening. And here's my question, okay? How difficult would it be when you know your quarterback, above all the candidates out there, wants Eric Bieniemy to be his coach? When you know that is the case, or at the very least, he really likes Eric Bieniemy because of what his good buddy Patrick Mahomes has told him about Eric Bieniemy. And how easy would it be to put in a request to interview Eric Bieniemy, whether for some idiotic reason, and I mean idiotic, you have no interest in talking to Eric Bieniemy, which is just foolish, okay? But whether you have interest in him or not, serious interest in him, how difficult is it for your 4 decision makers to sit around a table and go on a computer screen and say, hey, Coach Bieniemy, thanks for giving us a couple hours of your time. Okay, how difficult would it be? And then to say, hey, look, Deshaun, this is why we like Arthur Smith over Eric Bieniemy, and lay it out to him and all that. Or, maybe even allow Deshaun Watson to be a silent partner and to sit in on the Zoom calls. What's wrong with that? But be that as it may, I cannot believe, if it's true, and thus it has been written, that they have not requested permission to talk to Eric Bieniemy. I think it's, in many ways, it's just foolish.
I was on with Dan Patrick yesterday after the rumor report, whatever that we had yesterday that really lit the fuse on this. And he and I were having this conversation, and he made the point that you made. Even if you're not going to hire the guy, what's the harm in talking to him? It's almost like the old Al Davis. Talk to anybody to pick brains. Find out what the Chiefs think of your defensive personnel, if nothing else. The guy thinks it's a real interview. It doesn't have to be. You can talk to him, and you can find out what he knows, what he doesn't know, what he thinks, what he believes, and it can help you going forward. I think in a weird sort of clumsy current Houston Texans culture way, they thought that it's easier to not interview him at all than to do the dance and not finish the deal. And so if we don't interview him, well, we've got other candidates, Deshaun. Sorry, we've hired a search firm that has lined up these candidates. And Cal McNair has all of these other advisors who he's consulting with, and we've come up with the candidates through that process, so we hope you can respect that process. Oh, yeah, I know we told you you would have a voice in this, but there's a point where you don't. I mean, that's just a weird, awkward, quintessential Houston Texans approach based on the overall dysfunction that seems to be permeating the organization. And, Peter, I'm going to rewind a couple of weeks ago. When it came out that Cal McNair had an informal committee of advisors, and then I asked some questions of the Texans for clarification, and I was told it's not really a committee. He's just talking to these folks individually. This is a guy who's going to do what he's going to do, and no one's going to tell him what to do other than what he wants to do. And when you have this broad range of different people you're talking to, what that means is you're going to keep talking to people until someone tells you that you should do the thing you already want to do. He's going to do the thing he already wants to do, as influenced by Jack Easterby. Because there's a story to be told. SI.com had a great article delving into the nooks and crannies of this strange power grab that Jack Easterby has managed to accomplish in Houston, and this hypnosis almost that he has utilized over Cal McNair. There's a story out there as to how Easterby got Cal McNair to hire a general manager who wasn't on the list of finalists as generated by the search firm to which Cal McNair is paying somewhere between $100,000 and $1 million for their input. And if Eric Bieniemy isn't a finalist, it's because, I believe, Jack Easterby convinced Cal McNair to not make him a finalist. And the other thing rattling around in my brain on this, and I saw the tweet last night from Ryan Clark, former Steelers great who's now with ESPN. This is the team that gave us we can't have the inmates running the asylum. And this is the team, right? It's the son of the man who said it, who's now running that team. Do you want to give your quarterback that kind of power and that kind of authority over your major decisions? I can't help but keep thinking about that line as it relates to making Deshaun Watson think he has a seat at the table and then ignoring what he would bring to the table.
It's incredible that we're saying this in 2011, or that I am saying this in 2011. But the
yes,
NFL
it is, because that would mean we have a time machine that takes us back 10 years. It's 2021.
Well, hey, listen, this time machine should be taking us back to 1971, quite honestly. That's what it should be doing. But it's incredible that in 2011, I'm making this statement. The NFL is going to have a big problem on its hands if one of these 6 teams does not hire Eric Bieniemy. That's the first statement. The second statement, I believe that the Houston Texans internally are going to have a big problem on their hands with their biggest player if one of the people who they hire, either for coach or GM, isn't African American. And so the GM is done. And now what about the coach? And so I'm just saying that if you, I don't know, maybe it was a month ago, Mike, I forget how long ago it was, but I had Troy Vincent, the NFL's EVP of football operations, on my podcast. And Troy Vincent was impassioned and angry and wounded about the fact that in 2003, to open 2003, the year the Rooney Rule was adopted, there were 3 African-American head coaches on opening day. In 2020, in year 17 of the Rooney Rule, on opening day, there were 3 African-American coaches in the NFL. And look, this is going to become, in this day and age, a gigantic problem for the NFL if something significant in this postseason is not done on the general manager and coach level to bring in more minority candidates.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely. And Eric Bieniemy has been standing on the doorstep for multiple years now. He's in the spot that launched Doug Peterson, who won a Super Bowl and then was in the playoffs the next 2 years. The spot that launched Matt Nagy, who's been to the playoffs 2 out of 3 years. Eric Bieniemy has been the only offensive coordinator of Patrick Mahomes as a starting quarterback, and he can't get hired. And I agree with you. If someone doesn't hire him, there will be an enormous and justifiable reaction. But the fact that they've slammed the door in Bieniemy's face in Houston, where you have a quarterback who advocated Bieniemy, who was led to believe he was going to have influence over the process, and they won't even talk to the guy that he's recommending that you talk to, that's why he's not answering the calls. That's why he's telling teammates he's going to ask for a trade. And that's why he just might do it. I mean, I think that at one level, telling the teammates you may ask for a trade is calculated to get the word back to management that they better get their act, or another word that ends with T, together quickly and take care of Deshaun Watson and make him happy. This is their chance, right? This is their chance, Peter. Don't make me laugh. I'm trying to deliver a serious point. This is their chance to fix it. They've got to fix it. And again, Texans, as I think Shireen Williams made this observation last night on our PFT Writers text chain, the Texans have become what the Browns were a few years ago. They cannot get out of their own way.
Here's the thing, Mike. Deshaun Watson this year, it had really one of the most remarkable years in the NFL of any single player. And everybody said, "Well, they were 4-12. What? They stunk." What do you mean, remarkable year? He threw for more yards than anybody in the NFL. He had the highest yards per attempt by a mile of anybody in the NFL. And a lot of times the connotation there is, well, he's a bombs away guy. He's throwing a lot of picks. He had the second highest quarterback rating in the NFL this year to only Aaron Rodgers. So, look, this guy by any measure is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. And I'll tell you the other reason why his season was vastly underappreciated. He plays without DeAndre Hopkins for the entire year. So then his number 1 receiver becomes Will Fuller. He plays without Will Fuller for 5 games this year because he messes up. So he basically plays the end of this season, without any of the receivers that he thought at the beginning of the year or early in the offseason would be his primary guys. And he does great. Now, look, Brandon Cooks is a very good NFL receiver, so I give him that. But the 2 best guys he had that he thought he would have, neither of them are there as he's trying to, win games late in the year. And so to me, I don't care what happens in this whole thing. I don't care. I'm not listening to anybody. I am not listening to anybody. If you start the conversation with, we'll give you our next 5 ones, then I might listen. But other than that, you do not make deals for 25-year-old starting quarterbacks who, unless they get in a car accident, are going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. You don't do it. You don't trade those guys away. So, what you said at the beginning, find a way to make peace with this guy because he is your best option to get out of this sinkhole that you're in.
We saw 2 years ago Antonio Brown tweet and Instagram his way out of Pittsburgh. We saw last year Stephon Diggs with one very well-timed tweet get his way out of Minnesota. We have never seen, and this is an indictment of the Texans, Peter, because you make your franchise quarterback happy. It's a given. It's presumed. It's automatic. It's like breathing for an NFL team. You make your franchise quarterback happy. We've never seen a franchise quarterback in his prime say, I don't want to be here anymore. And if he says that publicly, and I think he has the demeanor and the voice to pull it off without people lining up and pointing at him and calling him selfish and no good and this and that and the other thing. If he says, I don't want to be here anymore, what are you going to do? Once he crosses that Rubicon, what are you going to do if you're the Texans? At that point, your best move is to strike the best deal you can. And shame on you for even letting it get to the point where we're having the conversation. We shouldn't even be having the conversation, Houston Texans. That's how messed up you are right now as an organization. And I have strong feelings about the role that Jack Easterby's had. This is what you get when you put someone who isn't qualified in charge of your team, when there are so many candidates out there with the other 31 franchises who are qualified to properly run an NFL franchise and know how to communicate properly, not with this over-the-top fluff. Oh, come on, slap you on the back and make you feel good and talk fast. No, you got to have people who know what they're doing. And this is the product. The fact that we are where we are right now is evidence that the Texans don't know how to run their team, or Deshaun Watson wouldn't be thinking about asking for a trade.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.